Okay, everybody ready? We'll call this to order. This is the August 11th Personnel Employment Committee meeting. We're going to call it to order at 10:03 a.m. And the first will be roll call, please.
Supervisor Hewitt,
Here.
trustee Robinson's here, trustee Geist.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Page.
Here.
Any other elected officials? No. Did everyone sign in to the public?
Anybody, public sign-in
Signed in.
sheet or comments?
Want to make sure I get everybody. Anyone online? Mark Spiegelman's online.
I submitted a public comment.
Thank you, Mark. I'm just trying to make sure I get all the attendees.
Take the time, we won't do the pledge until.
Anyone else online?
It's just mine.
Okay. Present. Person. Very. Okay. I think I got everybody. Thank you. Yep.
Do the pledge of allegiance?
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next, number 5 is the supervisor's report on a staffing plan for fiscal year 23. I'm sorry.
Public comment.
Oh, my apologies. That out. Public comment. Going around the room, starting Mr. Galloway.
Yeah, the people in the township want and pay for and deserve services. Services require personnel. We all know that. And I certainly hope that the board will, in this committee, will maintain the staffing levels required to do what's necessary. And I know that the board would like to see very fast results when expenditures are made, when people are hired. It takes time to ramp things up. And I don't see the board exhibiting patience in that regard. It's my opinion.
Thank you.
Also, I would like to say that I was at the Wednesday meeting. We, as an audience, were lectured several times that we don't know all the details of everything that's going on. If we don't know all the details, there's something wrong. It's up to the board to inform us. We pay the bill, and that's what it is.
Couldn't agree more.
Makes me want to brainstorm with coffees perhaps, or something that is a little more
Yeah.
informative, so that.
Totally
you're-
willing.
You were heard.
Absolutely. We completely understand and completely accept what you're
We try to
saying.
share as much as we can, so, but it's also hard when you have one. We try to give you as much information as we can. We try to speak to your question, but obviously we can't answer you directly when you ask a question, which I think is frustrating. And I thought the same thing, it would be nice if we could. Would you be interested in coffee with the trustees? Because you both have expressed wanting to have more of a dialogue. Is that something that if we,
We do
made
like a
that
monthly,
time?
bi-monthly coffee with, because come to the township, meet at a coffee shop, sit down with the board
Would
and
that
have
be
a
helpful?
conversation.
well, what are you looking? We want to be solution oriented. So you posed a problem. That's a solution. If you have another solution, we're open to hearing it.
I would consider going.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Thank you.
Plan.
Carrie, comment?
Okay, virtually the same thing. I'd like more participation by residents. You know, we're not enemies, and I don't believe you're working for us. But I do believe we're all working together to form a better society in the township. Because in my opinion, politically, this country is going in the wrong direction. In the hell. I see violence, I see hatred that I can't imagine from my political past. Coffee together sounds marvelous. I'd like to know what you guys are doing, what you're thinking, and what we're thinking can be expressed to you.
Deal, thank you. Anybody else?
Have comments. At the Wednesday, August 9th board meeting. Trustees suggested there's a misinformation campaign about the board's business. I'll correct that notion for you right now. There's almost no information about the board decision making available because the board does not provide it. We choose to not explain reasoning behind major decisions, either in writing or in comments. You meet all too often in executive session. All the information I base my conclusions are derived on observation of the interaction among the trustees at meetings such as this, because there is nothing else. As I started attending these meetings more regularly this year, it quickly became apparent that the board was not doing an adequate job of keeping the public informed. For a period of months, it's obvious that you do not spend the time required to understand that you're dealing with. Answers to repeated questions by residents go unanswered for months. Often are never answered. You've had plenty of opportunities to answer questions in your board. Why reduce the budget for salaried employees by $164,000? What's magical about that amount? Your sustained intransigence on that question raises a lot of eyebrows. People who start looking deeper. And when those people start looking deeper, they realize the significant lack of enthusiasm on the part of the board in meeting the needs of the township residents. And then this may grew because, well, who needs a brewery when you can't fund staffing under the demonstrated increasing needs of unfed and senior citizens? Now you will spend a sum of $2 million to buy a building while providing no explanation of how it helps improve services to the residents. And you have communicated no plan, no timeline, no cost for improving the properties, all of which should have been detailed before deciding to make the purchase. You realize how bad that makes you look? The budget summary finally provided by Barry Robinson on Wednesday is a start, but even it gives little insight into why an item's status is as reported. How did you come to settle on these numbers? This insight is not there, and it was not previously reported. Because it requires some thought, hard work, and dedication to your job. Perhaps that is the reason you don't have answers.
Time.
Haven't advanced
Time.
any information.
Out of order. I want to speak to your comment. I think you make a good point about how we don't have a timeline for the building or the clear plan. I don't know if you know the timeline we were working with. So what happens is we had first right of refusal to purchase the property. Someone already had an offer on the property. So there's no time to purchase the property and work all get the constituents' approval.
So don't
Right.
purchase the property.
No, let me finish. We had to take advantage of this opportunity. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. You want expanded services, we can't expand them in the parking lot. We can't expand them into the highway commissioner's warehouse buildings. So we have to think strategically. So you mentioned that it takes time, right? It takes time to grow a program. So we have to take that time now that we have the space to plan for the space. And I assure you that as we go through that, there'll probably be plenty of meetings to talk about the best utilization of that space. But we can't expand senior services into the parking lot. We can't expand the food pantry into the parking lot. So you have to have a vision for the future. So just like we have to have a vision for the future in giving the programs an opportunity to be developed and progress, you have to have a vision for how we can use this space most effectively for our constituents. So there's no secret to it. We had to work within a very short window of time, because you only have a short window to buy the property before the other person, we would have to, let the other person make the purchase. Go ahead, you have something to say?
No.
Ms. Rose?
Buy the
This one?
property.
That's not. the-
Your vision is to provide
That's not the, okay, so where do you want the services to be expanded to, Mr. Brubaker?
some building available now, not in 9 years.
It's not available in 9 years. I think that that's another misinformation that's out there. So the first section of the building is going to be up for renewal in a couple of years, and so we can start expanding there. And then the next section of the building, I don't know why you keep saying brewery as if it's a bad name. This is a great business. This is a great business that's done a lot in our community. I'm very proud to have the brewery in this business. But if you've never had a conversation with the owners, you probably wouldn't understand that they have growth expansions that are going to supersede that space. So they don't want to be there past a certain period of time. So this is a huge opportunity for our township to take advantage of now, while we're developing the programs, while we're growing the programs, to now start to plan how we can best use that space that's going to become available to us. And at a great price.
I'm gonna build on
Tax
that.
dollars.
And
Yeah,
building on the
very
fact that
efficient
the
tax
rent
dollars.
is gonna be able to go to the food pantry and other services.
I'm gonna make this quick, to hope to dispel some of the rumors that are out there. The supervisor wanted this building last year. The supervisor worked to purchase this building last year. There was a lot of really intense conversation in this boardroom over that, and we failed. When we went to the public and asked them, we failed, okay? I was involved with looking at different buildings with the supervisor. Tate School was one of the ones that was on the list of properties to look at. We looked at a place up on Warrenville Road. The supervisor herself has been involved in looking for buildings for more than a year. Okay, so that's the end of the building discussion for this particular meeting.
I would like to respond though to one thing that you said when in the last town hall, what was the question was not specifically for that building. The last town hall was is in exactly accordance to Naperville Township and Downers Grove Township. Wanted to give us, the board, the ability to not just have that as an option, but also to build. So it was not specifically for that
Yes,
21.
exactly, but
It was an
you
option.
wanted that building.
It was an option.
It was.
That was being
It was
pursued.
an option that was intensely discussed
It
in
was.
this boardroom repeatedly for hours and hours and hours.
It was.
Okay.
So.
We put in a lot. And then there was another thing, there was something else you mentioned, Sean. You ask questions that don't get answered, right? Because that's fair, but remember, when you give public comment, we're not supposed to talk to you. It's very frustrating, trust me, because I want to answer your questions.
Email us. Any one of our emails are public. Send us an email, right? And
And
we
no
will.
one sent us email, we're caught, we have phone numbers, we can call them. I guess that's what's frustrating. So we all know that there's a problem, right? Communication, right? You feel like there's not enough communication, but we're all adults and professionals. I'm assuming we've all worked in the world, right? So we all know that if there's a problem and it's communication, and we have all of these tools to communicate, why are we not using them? But yet we come here meeting after meeting and complain that there's no communication. I don't think any of you have ever reached out to me. Have you ever reached out to any of these board members, phone, email?
No.
Okay, so let's be fair and let's move forward, and let's be solution oriented moving forward. If you have questions, let's make time to give you those answers. Is that fair?
So with public comment, we didn't do the online public comment.
Oh,
I wasn't sure if
Back
Mark
on this, please.
Spiegelin would like to,
Yes.
or I know you submitted it, so here's the submission.
Yeah, I can verbalize it in lieu of reading the public comment. That's fine. I wasn't sure I'd get onto the Zoom. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So at the last meeting, Trustee Robinson said that personnel figure, I don't know, the figure I see keeps shifting. I don't know if it's 175,000 or 164,000, but you know what I'm talking about. And I would like to ask a straightforward question. Was this figure arrived at as the sum of the salaries of the staff you objected to the supervisor hiring specifically, yes or no? And if not, where does this figure come from? And that's all I have to say.
Right, is that the end of public comment?
I have a public comment. Back in, I want to say 2019, when they decided to lease the building for the assessor, it was on a
lease with the potential to buy. That
Right,
was like
right.
always that was the thing that they were actually looking towards and wanted to write it for.
That was literally negotiated
Yes.
into their lease
Into
on
their
purpose
lease,
because they
right.
wanted that building if the opportunity ever came
Yes.
up.
So that's why the
Oh.
building is so.
You need to go, thank you.
They're gonna open the garage.
Any more public comment online? And we're done in the room, okay. So next item would be supervisor's report on a staffing plan for fiscal year 2023-24.
Yes. Okay, so when we're looking at the sheet that was passed around, the spreadsheet that was passed around at the, or it's at the front there. One of the pieces that we wanted to make sure that we noted was in the amended salary expenditure in the last cycle. What was passed was for $510,000 for salaries for the town fund. What we're looking for, we're giving you all three options or four options specifically. With the current staffing, the way that it is, the one person that hasn't been, that we could imagine being hired either in the next year or in the next few months, is a potential part-time person for transportation and food pantry. The reason why is because the food pantry has the most need to extend hours. The only way that the hours can be extended is with a Monday through Friday type of situation. A Monday through Friday extension of the hours. We were trying to figure out if the weekend hours could be done. And in order for staff to be changed to a weekend schedule, it would really require a whole lot of jockeying with schedules. So a Monday through Friday expansion of 3 hours would be the easiest way to expand our hours and expand the reach of the food pantry, potentially also with recycling. So
Continue, please. This is, I'm not gonna hold you to the 3 minutes, Supervisor Hewitt. I would,
I'll make a motion for Supervisor Hewitt to extend your time.
thank you. I'll second.
okay, thank you. So the only person that is not hired currently then would be, if you were to take that into consideration, option one would be 585,416,000. Option two is then, or sorry, if they were hired, it would be 597,124,32. If they were hired, then it would be 585,416. The part-time, there's a few people that when we were looking at, or we were discussing as to could certain positions be changed into part-time positions. From an administrative side, there could be an option of either the executive assistant perhaps being changed to a part-time if everybody was wishing for this to happen. The other option is as we were looking at this, we were trying to make sure that the sorry, this has changed since the last time I looked at this. We were working on this morning and Joe had finished this. The last option would be as if you decided to make, for example, the executive assistant part-time. So you were previously saying that there was too many administrative staff sections. So looking at where cuts could be made or where changes could be made, that's another option that could be done. So you have 4 options that you can look at and choose from of what you would what would be allowed. And these are with the current staff's salaries, understanding that, for example, the director of the food pantry came in a month and a half into the full year. That the transportation driver the part-time one hasn't been hired yet. And that would include maintaining all of the current drivers that we have for the food pantry and for the driving services. That is a reduction of it's giving you 4 options as opposed to just one. And that is quite a reduction from the 638,000 that we're asking for. And that's a moderate increase from the 510,000 that was passed in last year's budget.
I'm sorry, what's option 4 again?
So option one is with the current staff with the potential part-time transportation driver and the food pantry hired. That would be the first option. The second one is is just with the part-time executive assistant. And then the next one is with taking off the 10,000 for not having a transportation driver. So those are the four options.
There's a green one in here, option 4.
Option 4 is Gerald just made that last one,
Okay,
and
not sure.
the four options are simply with the additional transportation driver and food pantry helper without that person, with a part-time executive assistant and without,
I see.
So
Combining-
there's
combining those
two-
other- combining option 2 and 3.
right?
And then our part-time food pantry person who's a driver, is that a CDL or that's?
There's no CDLs required for
Requires
our
van.
food pantries.
Okay.
For our vans, and right now they are not hired. So to be super clear, right now, we're expecting that our ridership is going to increase. So in October, we're going to be sold out of our current one drivers. So anticipating that we're going to have increased ridership at the rate of increasing of what we've been doing, then we'll be sold out by October.
How many rides a day are being?
It's averaging, again, we had, let me get you the numbers from transportation. From Gerald Wolf, they were, I think it was 180 less, he would know right now, but I think it was like 180 in the last month. And so they've been doubling.
So for the month of July, you say there was 180 rides?
Right off the top of my head, if we could just ask Gerald
when he
really
comes-
quick. But they were doubling in the last time, and I think the average was 8. And in the
So
month of
from
July,
Perspective of adding a whole other salary and benefits, wouldn't it be just more prudent to give vouchers in those cases?
so no, because we're not looking to add a benefits right now. We're looking to, as we're working with Lisle Township, they apparently have all of their drivers as part-time. So I would anticipate having a part-time driver, and also understanding that if one of our goals is to increase our food pantry hours, that could be a way that it could be done.
Mhm. Of all the solutions here, I guess I'm just curious as to why we would choose to make a full-time position that has played such a significant role and been here for considerably longer than the most recent hires, would be the first position you would look at reducing the hours as an option.
So when we're looking, trustee Robinson had continuously pointed out that it was the administrative aspect that we had hired 3 people into. And so when we're looking at the administrative aspect, that's going to have the least impact on services. So if and the other thing is that, again, we're trying to figure out exactly job descriptions. That's going to be the one that would have the least impact directly on services.
How would the assistant, the person who's handling communications, I just don't understand how would that have the least impact on the township, because you don't have the bandwidth to do it, Mr. Wolf doesn't have the bandwidth to do it, so why would that be the first position we would look at editing?
So again, when we're looking at,
Oh, hang on, I'm sorry, Mr. Trustee Robinson, can you explain why you would think that the executive assistant was a position, was an option?
No, I can't.
Okay.
No, I can't.
I didn't see that as administrative support.
Yeah, I
honestly.
don't, exactly, I don't look at the executive assistant as administrative, the executive is I look
Part-time
at her.
administration roles.
Yeah, right,
are
her,
Ones that.
so her job description, or that job description has not been updated.
her job description has
March.
changed no less than 6 times.
I've gotten a lot of urban info.
Okay.
I know that there's a
So,
report
and-
that says that they're not official, but I don't know why I have 5 different copies of updated job descriptions since I started.
Well, can you give a good reason as to why why the need keeps existing to changing people in and out of their roles and their job descriptions?
So,
From a continuity perspective of business, right? This is what I do all day. I help companies staff, right? That's what I do all day. So that's what I do. So I'm just trying to understand why we would do that, why we would be looking to constantly move people and change their roles. And the two people who you're not changing are two of the last people who were brought on. You're not adjusting their hours or making any suggestions, changes to their teams.
So again, let me go through the history of this and I'll start with when I arrived here, there was only one old job description. Most did not exist, and the ones that had been updated the one that it did exist had not been updated in many years.
Sure.
There were no professional goals for any staff members. In August through September 2022, all of the current and future job descriptions were written. During February 23 through March of 23, 3 job descriptions, operations manager, executive assistant, and director of communications in total were changed to them being linked together in one change in staff. All of them were new roles. In late January, after meeting with HR professionals at Connor and Gallagher and our employment attorney, we set up a process to change job descriptions. 3 steps to do this were identified. We added the 4th of board approval. Step 1 was write or update a job description. Step 2, get it approved by the township board now, but in February, that was not required. In February, they were approved by myself, HR, and then the staffer signed the new job description. Step 3, have the staffer sign the job description. Step 4 was that a new offer letter would be given from the township to the employee if there were any major changes in the job description.
Pardon me.
That process.
Are you giving a statement? We're just asking a question.
I'm answering it. So that process was completely completed twice with 2 employees in February and March with the operations manager and the director of communications. The offer letters and job descriptions are in their personnel files. The descriptions were put in the server as well. The changes in February were mainly with 1 job description that was brand new. For the 3rd employee, the change was only a deletion of 2 lines and a change of report. It required 2 sentences from the executive assistant, create newsletters, maintain and update township social media. The report changed from the supervisor to the operations manager. The employee was offered a pay raise to change the job description more. That and changes were declined in the job description. Nothing at all was added because she did not want her job description changed at that time or at any other time. Due to expecting the employee to decide what the person preferred in the change in process of getting job description, that was the last job description change that was only partially completed. The employee never was given a new offer letter or signed the new description because nothing was added to the job description with the expectation on both sides that there would be changes. In early March, the personnel committee required all changes in job description to go before you all first. I have not gotten a single job description proposed to be approved. Yes, I have proposed a number of drafts of versions of times, but none of them have been agreed to since March. When the bookkeeper was created, I asked about waiting until there was a job description. That was not the preferred option. She still does not have one that's approved, just the modified proposed versions. We have spoken with all the employees several times with job descriptions have not been approved as it clearly recorded in videos. They wanted and got a lot of input in the last 4 months. Since the second step was not completed, no one signed a new job description or got a new offer letter. With 2 new programs being introduced, transportation and recycling, DOT certifications being required, a change in operations manager to township administrator, the documents required changes. Every time I propose them, I try to make sure that they were the most up-to-date version, as it will likely be the last time they're changed. Last time I decided I should change the dates on them all so that it would be easier to know when they were all approved. Connor and Gallagher HR staff was not used in this last proposal because there's no more time that is allowed to be bought from them at this time. So they're not at all being used for this. There were hardly any changes in this last proposed job description.
So I want to get back to what you were just if you want to respond.
My job description is saying that it would remove these sentences, the create newsletter, maintain and update township social media.
Are you doing any of
I'm
that?
not allowed to do those.
That's what I,
Instead, I've been added to be a certified bookkeeper and certification for QuickBooks, which I think it's more important to have an outreach for our community than having this new certification for bookkeeping when we already have someone that's getting that certification. And I thought there was also a conversation about not paying for employees who have training to complete their job. So if we're already having someone that's completing that, why do we have yet another person doing that? And then removing them from needed jobs like outreach to our community and creating a newsletter that's comprehensive and everyone is approval on it.
Is there any reason that, can you give us an explanation, Supervisor Hewitt, why you are not using the executive assistant for the reason she was hired for, to do the social media, to do the newsletter, to do everything? That was, she provided me with her application. She provided me with everything.
Yeah.
From
That's
Indeed,
great.
and she is doing nothing that she was hired to do, and those changes occurred within weeks of your hire.
Also, that's a problem because people keep
Huge
complaining there's not
problem.
information going out there, but there's nothing being posted on our
Yes,
social media.
who's doing
keep
social
people
media
informed.
now? Who's in charge of social media right now for the township?
We
There's
have not
much.
here's exactly the issue is that we have not updated these job descriptions since they were passed
Okay, so
in
let's say
March.
we didn't update
So
them.
here's,
Let's say we
again,
didn't, but
can
why
I
did they
answer
not
the
do it?
question?
No,
Just you guys,
answer that question. Why
so I'm
is it
trying to
doing that?
answer multiple questions here at once. Would you like them answered or not?
Answer the question, please.
Okay, so this last job description was passed in and handed in as the executive assistant in March of 2023. And at that time, the executive assistant did not want to add anything. She decided that she did not want any changes in, but one
The
second.
changes you were proposing were not even close to what she had just applied for, Supervisor Hughes.
To be
She did
super
not
clear-
apply for finance. She applied for communications.
To
and
be
within
super
weeks-
clear, in her job description, that was in there, it said very clearly, and I'm trying to bring this up. but
I
it's not
get it
coming
in
up.
front of me.
It says very clearly several phrases. One was, anything that let me get the, 1 second, before I quote myself.
Sorry, while she's looking at it, I didn't want to intrude on the supervisor's time.
Mhm.
But one of the things I've done is I've gone through and I've sort of listed what the volumes of services that we're providing to the community are based on the reports. And I've also gone through and tried to map what I think we need to do as a township and who's doing it. And the executive assistant has got an awful lot of stuff that she's doing right now. There are other positions which aren't, frankly, don't have as much responsibility and don't align with the services that we're delivering. So if you want, I can share this now. That's going to be germane to the discussion.
I found what I was looking for, but the employment attorney also very clearly advised that if we want to talk about anybody in specific, we need to go into executive session. So if you want to talk about the description of this role, we can do that. But if you wish to go into executive session or have this be another session, but when we were looking at this particular job description, that was the one that was passed in December. The only things that there was nothing added to it, the pieces that were taken off were again, working with the website and working with the social media. And nothing else was added. So managing the leadership's calendar, other relevant projects as required by the leadership team was what was the phrase that was said that was needed. When we're looking at, for example, what the job descriptions and then on the monthly report was being done. Again, we're trying to figure out, okay, where's there the most holes in ability with regards to getting done what needs done. And so when we were looking at the monthly reports, there was more opportunity there than in, for example, changing other job descriptions. I frankly very much believe that it would be helpful to keep the staff the way that it is and to increase it, but the job descriptions without being changed and without being approved, when, for example, the bookkeeper who was formerly in charge of communications and outreach, there was no job description given to her. And there wasn't one approved. So that was where you all had given the directions of being a bookkeeper. Her time needed, we all agreed that she needed to focus on the audit and get trained. So that allowed her to do that. was anybody kicked off of doing Facebook or doing the website by any means? No access was taken away
Who's
from.
doing that now? Who is in charge of social media now?
Right now, there is not, right now, unfortunately, because
Okay, so you're
job
hanging that on the
descriptions-
committee. You're saying that because the committee has not approved job descriptions, that's hung up. Okay, so you're putting that on us?
I'm simply saying that the employees have not agreed to new job descriptions. And they believe that they have not, that their job descriptions need to be approved by you all. So because no job descriptions
No,
have been
that's not
approved.
fair. That's not fair.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what they,
that's not fair.
we're not, this is what they've
Yeah.
been told. I'm looking at the executive assistant, the job description that she applied for, that she was hired from,
Mhm.
and the only financial line is some accounting functions may be required. That is a stretch, Supervisor Hewitt, to say some accounting functions may be required to get in there and get accounting training, get bookkeeping training, get QuickBooks
She
training.
doesn't
It
have
was-
to. Again, this was, we were trying to give her the options of what she wanted to do. So giving her the options, we said, for example, we would find an accountant that would be able to do backup and would have a bookkeeper backup. So if she, and again, we were giving her all of these options to figure out what she wanted. And we haven't heard back as to what she wanted.
Are you-
Has
Job
my-
that I applied for.
Yeah. Can we go back to the
Yes.
job that she applied for, that she was
It
hired
is-
for?
It's so simple. It is so simple. If you would
The
just,
position that you
put-
said she was qualified for. which
that
is
you
what
hired her
position?
for.
So the only two phrases that were taken out from the original job description that she was hired for: create newsletters, maintain and update social media websites.
Right, why
That's
can't
the
we give her
only,
that job back?
I,
She was qualified.
so when
for
I'm
it.
looking at the current job descriptions, okay, and if we are gonna go through them one by one, the current job description, here's the current changes. Okay, so does she not want to be involved with doing recycling or not?
Oh, no, that's not how we're gonna
What's
conduct
going
this.
on?
That's how we get our emails from you. We're not doing that now.
Okay, so, but there's details here, and that's why, again, there is a whole lot of details in this second one that didn't exist when she was a theoretical, potential hiree in September. So
Yes.
Sorry.
the devil is in, we just need to go through the details of what you want to change.
I would like to see social media thriving. I
Absolutely.
know that the
We-
likes are low,
Right. We have almost a zero presence on
Also,
social media.
The number of likes does not equate to the number of views.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
really important for you guys
exactly.
to know. I have a page that I grew to 60,000. I have a page I can't get past 3. The number of likes does not mean people are not viewing it. They're just not engaging. But it doesn't mean that they're not picking up that information and holding on to it or using it or applying it. So I think that, and the big complaint that's in here all the time is we're not putting enough information out there. Well, if we have someone who was hired and qualified to do it, who's actually doing it, it wouldn't be a problem. But you took that responsibility back, because I think one of the things that's a challenge is, and it's tough, being a leader is tough, but in order to be a leader, you have to know how to lead. And part of leading is delegating and trusting people to do the job that they were hired to do, instead of moving around and taking responsibilities away from them and you taking it on, but then it never gets done because you're too busy to do it. That's a very fair assessment. That's not an attack. That's not nitpicky. That's a very fair assessment.
So from,
We go
the
on to
reality was
social.
from February until May, there was a director of communications. And that was in their job responsibility, but without having that director of communications and that job description, all of those pieces reassigned, then that was where we've been at. So it would have been great, it would be great if we can reassign those, and if you wish that to go there.
I'm just gonna make an observation, Supervisor Hewitt, that this township, under the previous administrations, functioned. It functioned, it provided
Right.
services, it functioned.
No one quit,
with less employees.
less
budget.
employees.
And now
No one quit.
you're insisting on all of this job description changes and this, that, and the other, and it's not functioning anymore. Can you see what we're trying to say? Like,
That's why we're not making progress.
Exactly.
So in
We're
twenty
not
twenty-two,
progressing,
and
we're
prior to
backsliding,
then,
and we're wasting
nobody
the-
had job descriptions, and it was very hard to,
But-
for example.
They didn't have job descriptions,
Uh-huh.
but somehow
all
they
work
managed to
together.
do their jobs. They
And
did
they
their
worked
jobs and they
peacefully,
worked
And there wasn't
peacefully.
chaos.
And it
And there weren't
worked.
30 meetings a month.
So what we don't need is
Limited
reams
access.
and reams and reams of words. What we need are people hired like you've done. You have made amazing hires in this office. You really have. I've spoken to every single employee in this office and every single one of them is in the position they need to be in. Right? So I like kudos to you for doing that. You have an eye for hiring the right people. Once they get here though, you don't let them do their work.
That's
Because
not
I think
true.
there is a trust issue. I don't know what it is, but
Sir, no, I'm being 100% honest. I
Yes.
sat in the leadership summit last week for 2 days, 8 hours a day. And I really thought a lot about what is happening here. My leadership capacity in my home, my leadership capacity in my office, my leadership capacity in my business, and at this table. And I think that's the challenge. Leaders have to trust. They have to empower, and they have to love their people. That's it.
you should have this office to a
This
point.
is not, that's not an attack. Let me finish that thought. This is not an attack. But not everybody knows how to be a leader. We're not born with it. We're not born with leadership skills. It has to be coached. There are skills that have to be learned. There are some things that are innate from one person to the next. But there has to be trust fostered. People have to be empowered to do the work that they were hired to do. And you have to love your people. They have to feel appreciated. And right now, you don't have that. Because every time they think they know what they're doing, they're told to do something else. That's how the second check got cashed. Honestly, were you doing anything nefarious? Probably not. But a second check got cashed because you keep changing roles so much. One person doesn't know from the next why a check was sitting in a drawer and it got cashed. And then we have to have an attorney general investigation.
So back
This
to,
is not confusing. That's exactly what happened. Because different people worked out of that office over and over again. So one person didn't know. What's confusing?
I'm just wondering how we got off the track of that description.
yeah,
That's not off the
we're gonna
track.
strike that.
Because
Yeah.
because the job descriptions have changed, Ms. Carvalho, because the job positions have changed, it created confusion. That's why. And we're trying to slow that train down.
It's chaotic and criminal results.
No.
It's a big deal.
So,
So
back to-
Yeah,
well,
let's streamline.
let's concentrate on what,
I always like to try to tie it back to the services we're
Right.
trying to deliver,
yes.
right? And, that's just my mindset. And then I look at who's assigned to do what, and I don't think the executive assistant would be the right person to make part-time based on all of the things that seem to be fall within her responsibility.
I am in agreement.
Executive, career network, is that still, we are still doing,
Yeah, that to this list.
right? Complaint management, general questions, walk-ins, Illinois license processing, medical lending closets, passports, recycling programs, school supplies. These all fall under the executive
Not in their,
assistant. Am
not
I,
in any proposed or
and I,
job description. that
No,
I've
no, I
seen.
just did it based
So,
on your report.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
The report of what she does for every month.
Right, but it's not the,
well,
it's
just
not
because it's not written down in her, doesn't mean that she's not being asked to do it.
understood, but for example, deciding, part of what our understanding is that we have to prioritize our goals and what we're trying to do with the people that we're trying to do it. So, and again, if you want to look at the job, these need to be eventually changed into job descriptions. That's
Agreed.
what will eventually happen. So if we're not ready to go into the job descriptions, and we're,
My concern is I don't think the job description's tied to what needs to be done. That's
Exactly.
what I'm concerned
Yes.
about.
Yes.
It's words.
Right, I have June 9th, June 30th, I think that was August 4th. I have 3 separate iterations right now in front of me of job descriptions that you put out.
yes, and some of them
I've
changed
gone through
the.
and highlighted. that
Right,
there are
and some of them again changed the font, and some of them changed the name of the administrator from
Right.
operations manager to.
But let me ask you a quick question.
Several
though.
of them require DOT
Well, that's what
certification.
this is. Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
What is your experience, Supervisor Hewitt, that causes you to like that? Do you have the experience necessary to rewrite these job descriptions on your own? You said that you haven't used Connor or Gallagher this time because you're out of blocks of time. What is your experience? What is your background
Sure.
that gives you,
So I've been a business owner for.
how many people do you employ in your business?
I have, since 2016, I've been focused on politics. And so since 2016, I've worked primarily with the consortium of other single business owners.
How
Pet sitting-
large?
How many, okay, do you wish
Please,
to have
please.
these answers or not? So, in this consortium of pet sitters, I have at the height had 8 people working with me. As independent contractors. And that I haven't been focused on pet sitting for some time. Because of the change of economy and because of the changes there. Previous to then, I was a manager at FedEx Ground and I had a line of employees. That was generally between 13 and 15 employees and 22 drivers to manage the operations of and the distribution of.
What years was
8.
that?
That was in the early 2000s.
Because I worked extensively with FedEx and their leadership program and the way that they develop their people and treat their people. This would not be what you would have been taught. This would not have been the experience you would have had.
So I had I had a very good leadership training and very good training there. So again, after being a business owner and after having gone through these discussions with Connor and Gallagher, at least half an hour for months, working through these particular job descriptions, and we started in August was when we started having these job description conversations. I was really also
Call to the question.
so as the answer is that I've been working continuously with Connor and Gallagher from August until April of 2023. April of 2023, when we realized that the funding was over, we stopped being able to use them.
But in those roles, which are great leadership roles where you're having to manage people and time schedules and that sort of thing, you still have not had experience in creating a structure. All that was in place for you by FedEx. So you didn't have to create a structure of effective operations. You didn't have to do job descriptions. You didn't.
Actually, I did when
HR would have done that at FedEx. You
I'm
wouldn't
not
have done
saying that at FedEx, but
We're gonna-
because we care pet sitting, I wrote a book. Focused on all of the details of what needs to happen with a pet sitter.
It's not an attack. We're just saying that we need people with experience
And
to
so,
assist with this.
and so again, we worked through this professionally and spent quite a bit of money with Connor and Gallagher to make sure that these were professionally done.
They're not on site. I have an issue with Connor and Gallagher because I just don't.
And we
feel
don't
like
use
it's
them anymore, so.
effective. And yes, however, so we have some mediation to do from what was done with Connor and Gallagher. I don't think that's the vision. So. You're
Can I,
here to discuss the vision.
can I suggest we look at this from a different point of view?
Yes.
We've got all these services.
Yes.
Which ones do we think are running well? Which ones do we
Okay,
think we
that's-
need to augment? Which
Agreed.
ones do we think we need to supplement? And which ones do we
Should
think?
we start with the positive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
The problem with trustee Robinson is this a personnel meeting or is this a planning session? Because if we need to have a planning workshop, that's completely different,
I understand.
because that's gonna take more than an hour.
Yeah, I'm really just trying to understand the staffing, how the staffing is aligned to deliver the service.
Exactly,
Are they the right resources at the right level? And are we delivering services well?
yes.
But that's just the way I would approach it, but I'm open to other ideas. And then I also want to make sure if we are doing job descriptions, let's tie them to what people are actually doing.
Yes,
And make sure that that aligns with what they were hired and what they want to do and what their aspirations are. The other thing, I know there's this concept that we can't do reviews until we have job descriptions, but you review people based on their past experience in their job. So I don't think we shouldn't be holding up
No,
reviews
right.
for people.
No,
We should be scheduling them based on what they were hired to do, what they're asked to do, and what the performance
yeah,
was.
not what they're doing in the future.
Right, if we're gonna change our jobs, that's goal setting for the next year. So I would like to make sure in fairness to the employees that we do the reviews.
agreed.
Well, aren't they two different things? So
They
there's-
are, clearly.
There's a performance, and this comes in a structure that you would experience at FedEx. There's a performance plan where they know what they're supposed to do over the next year. If this is uncomfortable for anyone, I'm like, this is really becoming uncomfortable for me as an employee of the township. This is becoming uncomfortable for me. I'm gonna ask you to please be more courteous. Thank you.
I'm
There's-
sorry,
there-
but I'm sorry, you just personally attacked me.
No,
here.
I'm asking you a
No.
question.
And I understand where you're coming from,
Thank
but
you.
I'm going to say this is becoming uncomfortable for
All
me.
right,
I am
that's
looking at
fine.
numbers. I'm also, to some extent, I'm embarrassed to be an
Okay.
employee of the
Okay, well
township,
then,
to be here, okay? But it's necessary, so.
I'm trying to talk and it's really disruptive.
I'm sorry, okay.
Thank you. So there's a difference, trustee Robinson, between a performance plan and a review.
Yeah, great.
Right?
Yeah,
So they should have both. And they shouldn't be in the same meeting, just so you know, okay? So the performance plan, which is your goal setting, you should have a plan of, these are expectations, this is what we're gonna want you to be doing. What are your goals? What do you want to learn? What classes do you want to take? How are you gonna grow in this role to benefit the township and your career path? So that's that. Then there's a review. How did you perform based on the goals that we set and agreed upon? All right, so it doesn't matter if we change the job description one time or 20 times. A goal setting meeting should happen and a review of the past of what has been done should be reviewed. Can we all agree on that?
Is anything like that in place right now, Supervisor Hewitt?
Well, we've been told that from you all that we should be waiting for the reviews. We've also been for you all to.
No, can you just answer what trustee guys just said? Do we have?
So
the person
Connor and
that is-
Gallagher instructed us to do, said that we needed to have the job descriptions and the review all at the same time. And so that was our professional HR instructions. And
Do you
we've
have that in
also,
an email?
sure, I can find that
Could
email.
you forward that to us so that we can
Sure.
read the language of that?
Sure. The other thing that we've been instructed is to not have reviews this year. So
By whom?
by Heather Becker, our employment attorney.
And the reason behind that would be?
She said that she thinks that it would be the best idea is to not do reviews this year.
But the reason, it's not just because I said so. There had, like, I'm asking, what is her reasoning behind not doing reviews?
Should be a positive thing. Because your feedback and
She said that,
affirmation that
she
you're
said that
doing your
because
job
of the amount of disputes that could be going on or potential liabilities.
Okay. Is that also in an email?
Yeah, I'd like
No,
if you.
it's not in an
Okay,
email.
well, that's,
Okay, but,
So why do we have the operation manager doing reviews? If he's not doing reviews, then maybe
There
his
has,
schedule should be.
there has not been a review done,
I know,
except for
but
the
that's
one
of
that
his
was done in
major
March. That
components, Isn't it, as operations manager?
you asked us, you asked us to wait for any reviews. And so we waited and we want to make sure that if there's any reviews that you all are leading the process because you all have a lot of opinions on that. So no reviews have been done
Yes.
since March.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Hewitt, that's completely untrue because you scheduled reviews.
Oh, we
This-
scheduled them, but they
committee-
were
One of the
canceled
rules
because
of this committee is that we are to be involved in reviews. You scheduled those reviews. You did not inform the committee that the reviews have been scheduled. We contacted you about that and then you canceled everything.
exactly, because we were,
So that is different
So-
than what you just said.
Hold on,
It's completely
hold on.
different than what you just
that
said.
is not true, because here's what happened. We scheduled the
I think we
reviews.
need to take this back.
Then-
let her answer, please. Let her speak.
Go ahead.
So,
No,
Let's-
finish, please.
So there was no details as to what you all wanted to be involved, so we scheduled the reviews, and then we were reaching out to you all with the dates and times of the reviews. But again, everything was canceled,
Nobody reached out to me with a date and a time for the reviews.
and so I was out of town, and again, there was a number of things happening that time, but there was an intention to reach out to you. The reviews were not had without your involvement, and no reviews were had.
But the email wasn't responded to and you did come into the office the next day after the communication came out from accountant Nader about the discrepancy with the checks. You were supposed to be out of town, but you came in the office.
Okay, well, we're gonna stick with,
I'm just saying.
okay.
What do we want to
consistent.
achieve here?
I drove home all night to.
I would
come to
like,
deal with
my
some-
goal, I would like to make sure that the whole goal of this meeting today was to go through these descriptions and make sure that each employee that we have is in the job that they're supposed to be in, and the employees are doing the job that they were hired to do. And so the very first one would have been the executive assistant,
Mhm.
and I want,
And this is why we met with each employee, right, trustee
Right.
Page? We
yes,
met with them, we took the time, it wasn't
Yes.
micromanaging, we took time to hear their concerns, to hear what
Yes.
they were interested in doing, to make sure that we were supporting their career path, right?
yes.
So we took that time to hear their grievances and to hear what they loved, and everyone who came to the table loved working. No one informed me they were embarrassed to work for the township. Are you embarrassed to work for the
I
township?
love my fellow employees. I do. I think that's the only reason.
Are
I'm
you
sticking.
embarrassed to work for the township?
I love all the employees that I.
I'm glad to hear that. So what we did is we took the time to meet with each employee, so we made sure that we were keeping them, you know, supporting the positions that they were hired for and wanted to be in, because their positions had already changed a couple of times. At that point, right, we'll just, the devil will come out in the details on the number of times, right? So let's just agree to disagree on the number, right? But we took that time to do that, and now we kind of gave them confidence that their positions were safe and that they were good to go. And yet we keep getting stories that their positions are not safe, or that we don't want them to be in their positions, and now we don't want them to have the reviews. So that's not what happened at all. We wanted one member of the personnel committee to sit in with your reviews, to make sure your reviews were conducted properly and fairly and that you had representation. Because we're here to support you. That's it. And we keep being positioned as the enemy and working against you, and that is not the case. And I hope that you believe that that is true. You agree? Do you agree? Great. Thank you. I'm so glad that we've got some people on board with understanding we are here for you. So I really think that that's what we need to do. I think the reviews need to happen based on the performance to this point. But also the caveat of that is, if you made changes in that time to their duties and the deliverables aren't clearly completed, that's not going to be fair either, because that's going to impact the integrity of the review. Is that fair to say?
So we've gone over the fact that there has not been a single change to a job description that has been approved since March.
So maybe there has not been job changes that have been approved. I'll give you that. But in the day-to-day operations, have their roles and responsibilities changed at all in their actions?
So, for example, we did start to make sure that we have a proofreading SOP, and that has been much debated and much contested, that there would be a need to proofread. And
Well,
so,
ChatGPT now.
wow,
Sure.
I think that
Yeah.
humans are, really essential and
There's a
necessary.
great article that just came out about this, so you can put your text in and it can just correct it if you're concerned about.
Yeah, that's what
typos.
we.
Primarily,
Yeah,
just
you know,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, 40%, great article just came out, 40% of projected increased with having those systems to check your wording. So there's a statement of operating procedures that you implemented that people would have to go through before they post it on social media. There's
Yes.
a whole approval process. Do we believe that that's great use of time and resources to be like, it's just a social media post, it's editable if there is a typo of a letter? I mean, what's the concern?
So there's a number of legal concerns, actually, especially in social media, whether anything that is deleted, we need to record, especially when it comes to, well, social media. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that information is then, whether a typo is being taken out, whether a legal issue of, for example, making sure that we're not using another entity's logo without permission. That has happened a number of times. So we want to make sure that we're doing things legally.
Okay, so that's what's included in the state.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. So is there a reason why we have not let Michelle continue to update the social media so that our community has updated information on a consistent and timely basis?
So Michelle, at the time when, again, I think that this would be better in an executive session if we're talking specific details, but
Sure.
so are we gonna do this? Are you gonna?
Go into executive session?
Okay, make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Is this the end of? It looks like this is the end of the meeting to go, or do we want to go?
We'll
through
come
the
back
rest of the
to
meeting?
Yeah,
Return to order to explore this conversation.
It's number 10, so that's kind of the end of the meeting.
I
Oh.
think we got to stay with the order.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to table for the discussion on specific job responsibilities and
Perfect.
positions until,
Great.
okay.
We'll do executive session at the end, yeah.
Any old business?
Anybody?
From a personnel perspective, well, I think that one of the things that I definitely want to bring to the forefront is that we need to be cognizant of the information flow that's going out that is causing so much strife now, even existing in this room. So that's going to be old business for me. We gotta figure out how to improve that, because we keep talking about it, but it's not proven by example.
part of
it's
the
just a person.
Positivity factor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and of this
that's true.
township.
Yeah.
And of working for this township and in support of this township. That's important for people who are here.
Any other old business? Anybody? Any new business?
New business for your meeting.
New business? Approval of the meeting minutes.
I brought the minutes in. I did. Do we all have a copy?
I don't think so.
I
Are these the
want to
ones?
look over it again, but I did look over it last time, prior. and then everything was good. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes from June 9th and July 6th. For the employment / personnel committee.
Wait a second. Thank you.
Oh, we do, sorry,
Is there one?
there's a correction. I don't think that's how you spell Mr. Brubaker's name. I think it's K. Is that correct, Mr. Brubaker?
Rubaker.
Yeah, it's a K, not CH.
Will change.
Thank you. Okay, and then we had a motion to go into executive
Sorry,
session.
we have the roll call vote.
Oh,
on that.
sorry.
So approving the minutes, roll call vote, trustee, Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Geis.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson, yes, okay. With the change in the correct spelling of Mr. Baker's name.
Thank you.
Okay, and who made the motion? Should we make a motion now to go into executive session?
Yes, and then I'll second.
Seconded
Sorry,
by
who-
trustee McGovern.
Who made it?
Trustee Geis, then trustee McGovern.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to.
Also, we were notified that the last time we went to executive session that people could hear us in the house, please be mindful of the volume.
They can hear some